Once both parties were about to make contact, Han Li slightly moved the edge of his dagger. The blade's angle had only shifted slightly, but in Dr. Mo's eyes, his whole world had turned into chaos due to this seemingly minuscule but earth-shaking change. The small light reflected on the dagger's edge suddenly gave rise to a dozen extremely dazzling white balls of light. The radiance was incomparably intense, and Dr. Mo could not stop it from shining directly into his eyes. Not good. He secretly cursed in his heart as he hastily retreated backwards, immediately shutting his eyes. But by then, it was too late. The white light had already entered his eyes and prevented him from attacking. In that instant, Dr. Mo felt his eyes heat up, and his eyeballs began to ache incessantly. Tears dripped down from his eyes without restraint, and he had no time to wipe them away. He endured the discomfort with much difficulty and strained to open his eyes, but all he could see was a vast expanse of whiteness. Even an object's silhouette appeared like the layers of a mirage, fuzzy and indistinct. He instantly felt angry and frightened. Because of his own carelessness, he regretfully fell for his opponent's crafty trick once again. However, Dr. Mo had traveled the country for a long time and thus had plenty of experience in handling various kinds of dangerous situations. He continuously retreated several steps backwards to try and gain some distance away from Han Li and buy himself some time to recover. Simultaneously, he withdrew his palms to the front of his body and waved them relentlessly. Relying on the invulnerable demonic silver hands, he protected the crucial areas of his upper body. He had already decided that before his eyes recovered, he would not take the initiative to attack. Any offensive attack would have to wait until he could see clearly again before making a move. Dr. Mo was aware that he was yet again caught within the brat's trap. Currently, Dr. Mo's contempt for Han Li had disappeared from his heart. The level of danger in his struggle against Han Li was not inferior to the life-and-death battles against formidable opponents from his earlier years. Even though he could not see Han Li's movements, Dr. Mo twitched his ears and listened with rapt attention, trying to use his sense of hearing to determine Han Li's next move. Suddenly, Dr. Mo vaguely saw a shadow flash by. Shortly after, there was a sharp noise and a surge of cold wind coming from his front. Dr. Mo did not panic at Han Li's attempt to assassinate him, instead, he was delighted. Han Li's strategy was somewhat naive. If Han Li had silently hid at one side to mount a sneak attack, Dr. Mo would have truly been worried. However, there was nothing to fear from a bold frontal attack. He had already trained his hearing to the point of perception, able to distinguish between the sound of wind, a thrust of a dagger, and an attack from an embroidery needle. He was able to hear perfectly. Dr. Mo heard the noise clearly, but his hand deliberately slowed down to make a small opening in front of him. Sure enough, the surprise attack immediately changed direction, deviating from its neutral path and making a beeline for his throat. Dr. Mo grinned hideously. His right hand, which had been waiting the whole time, suddenly made a move. He quickly grasped firmly onto the edge of the blade as he did not fear the sharp edge of the dagger at all. Han Li was aware of the turn of events and violently exerted some force to pull the dagger back a few times. But in the grasp of the demonic silver hands, the dagger did not budge at all, making Han Li's attempts a waste of effort. Dr. Mo felt a little proud of himself, but he did not dare to be careless for a moment because he was afraid that Han Li would realize this chance and release his grip on the dagger to run away. With disregard for his ability to see, Dr. Mo abruptly executed a move using 100% of his power with one hand. He pulled the dagger to one side, planning to pull Han Li firmly away from his front and personally hold him down. Instead, Dr. Mo felt that his hand was as light as a feather, as if there was nothing in his palm. He was greatly startled. He had definitely grasped the edge of the blade, so how could his hand be light all of a sudden? Even if Han Li had managed to loosen and release the dagger from Dr. Mo's grasp, it shouldn't have caused Dr. Mo's hands to become lightened this abruptly. Dr. Mo did not have enough time to think about it. His body acted on reflex and maneuvered evasively. At once, his head dropped to one side, and he leaned over with all his might. His neck was bent in an unfathomable angle in an attempt to avoid a fatal attack. Dr. Mo's many years of bitter training in profound skills had finally displayed their usefulness. At this moment, Dr. Mo felt something cool, a sharp object, brush against his neck. It barely grazed his skin and did not result in further injury. After dodging this attack, Dr. Mo feared that Han Li still had some moves in reserve. Without thinking, he actually copied one of Han Li's previous escape tricks. He dropped his whole body to the floor and rolled away. Only after rolling a great distance from Han Li did he dare to rise and stand. He hastily used 2 fingers to put pressure on the blood vessels in his neck to stop the bleeding. At this moment, some fear arose in him. A moment ago, he felt that he could not hide anywhere within the room, but he did not expect his body's instincts to be brought into full throttle and actually manage to escape death by random chance. He had been thinking hard up to this point, but eventually Dr. Mo could not help but raise his head to glance at Han Li. At this time, he discovered that he could see the objects within the room with clarity. He was unaware at which point in time his vision returned back to normal. Dr. Mo could only see Han Li glaring at him with dissatisfaction, obviously discontent with Dr. Mo's continuous evasion of his blade. Han Li carried in his hand a sharp, inch-long weapon. From its shape, it resembled an odd awl, but its handle was the original dagger hilt. The weapon as a whole looked somewhat grotesque. The surface even had some blood stains on it. This was indeed the strange weapon that had injured Dr. Mo. Dr. Mo turned gloomy, his eyes filled with fury. He kept having narrow encounters that threatened to cost him his life. Dr. Mo was about to lose his patience and about to burst with anger, but he noticed that his right hand was still holding on to something. He looked down and saw an immobile blade. He lightly lifted it up to get a closer look. Suddenly, he realized that this blade was hollow. The space within the blade was similar to the shape of the sharp awl. This blade was merely a cover used to conceal the awl from his vision. Because of this discovery, the rage that filled him was suddenly extinguished thoroughly. Dr. Mo finally figured out why Han Li had been determined to keep the door open the moment he entered the room. Han Li's request foreshadowed his use of the sun's glare. Dr. Mo's opponent was of such a young age. How could he be this thorough? This meticulously calculated sinister chain of events made this old and experienced figure of Jiang Hu unable to fight back. Han Li's profound schemes did not match his age and experience. Could it truly be that this person was truly a natural genius, perhaps even a reincarnated prodigy? He pondered deeply. The more he thought about it, the more his fear grew. A cold sweat covered Dr. Mo from head to toe. Enduring this frustration, Dr. Mo grew far more wary of Han Li. He cautiously and solemnly faced the youngster. For a short while, he did not dare to act again. Han Li also did not know why Dr. Mo was just staring at him without the slightest intention to attack. For a short while, both sides had silently decided to cease hostilities. They gazed at each other in anxiety. After a moment passed within this awkward atmosphere, Han Li suddenly started speaking. His sentence would leave Dr. Mo dumbstruck and distracted. "Elder Mo, why don't we make peace? Or how about I surrender? What do you think?" Saying this, Han Li swung his arms. He straightforwardly threw down his weapons and gazed at Dr. Mo with a smile, exposing rows of pure white teeth. Just like that, he donned the appearance of a simple and honest youngster from the countryside. Surrender? Dr. Mo originally believed that his ears had gone bad. However, he immediately reacted. Looking at Han Li's discarded awls, he did not have slightest degree of trust, so he fiercely asked, "What's your plan? Don't think that I would trust your false words. You want to surrender? You could have done that from the start. There was no need to wait until after we became irreconcilable adversaries. What else is up your sleeve?" Han Li looked at Dr. Mo with a smile and did not speak. Instead, he seemed to tacitly agree to his criticisms. These two had once more sunk into confrontation. After a short while, Dr. Mo seemed to think of an extremely funny matter. He unexpectedly lifted his body, put both hands on his abdomen and laughed at the top of his lungs. The laughter was unrestrained, and tears flowed out from the corners of his eyes. Ha ha. Ha. Ha ha. Truly. This is truly interesting. I had actually forgotten such an important aspect. I had actually truly been the target of your traps, said Dr. Mo in an ambiguous manner in between his disjointed laughter. Han Li wrinkled his brow, but soon after, he smoothed it out. As he glanced outside the window, the corners of his mouth formed a strong smile, and he calmly said, "Elder Mo, don't you feel that this delay has gone on long enough? It's about time to finish this." Dr. Mo grew slightly distracted and stopped his hearty laughter. He slowly straightened himself and stiffened his face. With an expressionless face, he stared at Han Li for a long time before coldly replying, "I, too, feel that it is time to conclude this." The two suddenly calculated their respective chances of succeeding. In that split second, they both thought of ways to force their opponent to reveal their cards. After a moment of awkward silence, Han Li slowly opened his mouth. He held no other thoughts other than the confidence of being able to force Dr. Mo to concede. "Elder Mo, did you know that your life is already in my hands?" Han Li's words could leave a person utterly astonished. "My life is already in your hands?" Dr. Mo sneered, his face had an expression of distrust. "Don't you think that wound of yours is a bit peculiar?" "Nonsense. I took a careful look at it. Your dagger doesn't have." Dr. Mo refused to believe his words, but halfway through his own reply, his expression greatly changed. He recalled that what had injured him wasn't that dagger but rather that hidden awl. "It seems I don't need to say any more. Elder Mo already understands my meaning." Han Li looked at Dr. Mo with a snicker. "Even if I were poisoned, you forget. Your medicinal techniques were all taught by me. There is no poison I cannot remove," Dr. Mo calmly said. His face immediately went back to normal. "Hee. I forgot to say. The poison that I applied on my blade was aromatic coiling silk." "Aromatic coiling silk?" Dr. Mo let out a soft cry of surprise. This had greatly exceeded his expectations. "Correct, Elder Mo surely knows how difficult it is to deal with this poison." "Nonsense, how could you possibly concoct such a poison? I didn't divulge even a segment of its formula." Dr. Mo's appearance was still strong, and he seemed to be unconvinced of Han Li's words. However, from the strange sensation he felt from the wound, his heart was already certain that Han Li somehow managed to concoct the poison. Seeing that Dr. Mo was still not admitting defeat, Han Li sighed. He would have to explain further. "You have long forgotten that I was given complete access to your library. This recipe was slipped into an obscure medical book, but had I not been attentive, I fear that I would have missed it." Dr. Mo recalled this fact. Back when he had originally obtained this recipe, he casually slipped a detailed copy of the medicinal formula into a random book because he was afraid he would forget the convoluted procedure, which required too many ingredients. Later, he completely forgot about this piece of paper because he had far too many affairs to handle. He hadn't expected this to benefit Han Li and cause him such a huge problem. "We should take a seat and have a proper discussion. Let us shake hands and make peace," Han Li confidently said. "Humph." Dr. Mo did not take notice of Han Li, his brain was hard at work remembering the effects of the aromatic coiling silk. Aromatic coiling silk. This name did not sound dreadful in the slightest. In passing thoughts, people even found that it sounded elegant and romantic. However, its poisonous strength was like the yearning of an infatuated woman, unbearable and bone-deep. Once the aromatic coiling silk poisons the body, the toxin would enter the blood vessels and gradually spread throughout the entire body. Ordinary mortals would not be in any danger, but to cultivators, this poison would be extremely fatal after a short amount of time. The cultivator affected by the poison could not recklessly disrupt his or her internal true qi, or else the poison would flare up and cause the blood in the body to flow backwards, resulting in immense pain and suffering. However, if one was poisoned for a longer period of time, the toxicity would penetrate the body, making the situation worse. Even if a person managed to recover somewhat and properly control of his or her true qi, he or she would still have to consume the antidote on a daily basis. Otherwise, gradual changes would occur within the bones, causing the body's foundation to wither. The body would curl up, paralyzed and unable to move. Eventually, the body would melt into a pool of mud. Even more terrifying was that once the poison penetrated the bones, nothing could be done to extract it. The individual could only rely on long-term treatment in order to survive. The poison would not flare up for the time being, instead becoming like a thread of carnal love, forever plaguing the victim's body. The poison was made up of a variety of materials, many of which could be replaced. Although the end product would be the same, the specific toxicity would change according to the person who concocted it, making the poison unique to its maker. Naturally, the antidote would also be unique. Only the person who manufactured the poison would be able to prescribe the correct antidote and suppress its toxicity. Even if others knew the method of making the aromatic coiling silk, they would have no way of concocting an antidote specifically geared to combat the aromatic coiling silk that someone else had produced. This way, the poisoned individual's puny life would be within the hands of the one who poisoned him. Unable to rebel or resist, the victim could only be obedient. Dr. Mo racked his brain for any memories regarding the aromatic coiling silk, filtering through his vast knowledge. He then understood the reason behind Han Li's fearlessness. Dr. Mo sneered in his heart, but his facial expression did not change. He indifferently asked, "Is this your last trick? Brat, it seems you have ran out of moves, so just obediently admit defeat." Han Li's heart sank upon seeing no changes in Dr. Mo's expression. At this point, Han Li was sure he had miscalculated something since Dr. Mo seemed to have entirely disregarded his threat. Dr. Mo did not seem provoked in the slightest, making it seem that he truly paid no mind to the aromatic coiling silk in his body. Even more so, Han Li was clear that because of this, he was in a very disadvantageous position. It looked as if his opponent was greatly certain that he could seize Han Li. Seeing Han Li remain silent, Dr. Mo laughed and deviously looked at him before saying loudly, "Iron Slave, capture him for me." Once Han Li heard this, he immediately remembered that after entering the house, he thought that he had forgotten something very crucial, Iron Slave. However, he had no time to mull over it. Instead, Han Li used the tip of his toes to hook the awl that was beside his leg. It automatically jumped into his hand. In an instant, a large shadow rushed from the corner of the room with a fierce wind following close behind. Its speed was incredibly fast, and it appeared before Han Li in a second, rendering him unable to evade. Helpless, Han Li could only use the sharp awl in his hand to stab towards the shadow's lower abdomen. He hoped he would at least be able to resist for a while so that he could have a chance to retreat and recover his breath. Stabbing the abdomen with the small awl was not the most optimal move, but Han Li had no other choice. His opponent was just too tall, and the weapon Han Li was using was only a few inches long, which made the abdomen the only area it was capable of reaching. Han Li suddenly felt like he had just collided against some kind of monster. It was as if a large wooden object had smacked his extended wrist, directly dislocating it from his arm. Subsequently, his body fell back a few steps due to the impact. The awl in his hand seemed to have struck a rock and was sent flying, disappearing without a trace. Han Li was unfathomably startled and angry. Just after barely stabilizing his body, the large figure appeared before him in the blink of an eye. Immediately, Han Li felt a sharp pain on both his shoulder as two large hands latched onto his shoulder blades tenaciously, pinning him down. Han Li struggled with all of his might, but it was as if an enormous mountain were pressing down on his body, rendering him unable to move at all. He was not able to do much in this kind of situation. In a moment of desperation, he lifted up his knee and aimed ferociously towards the weak point between the large shadow's legs. Ouch! It was so painful that Han Li was constantly dripped with cold sweat. Upon unleashing an attack that would have normally been fatal on his opponent, he discovered that the giant shadow was incomparably solid. His kneecap broke into many pieces just like the pieces of a hen's egg cracking upon hitting the egg against a rock. However, Han Li's move only provoked his opponent. The large hands above his shoulders suddenly increased their pressure. Han Li was in so much pain that he feebly collapsed to the ground, almost losing consciousness. "Easy, Iron Slave. I still have use for this person," Dr. Mo loudly commanded. After those words were spoken, Han Li felt his shoulders lighten, and the pain was greatly reduced. In his heart, he couldn't help but sigh in relief. For once, he thought that Dr. Mo's voice was pleasant to hear. But after rejoicing for a moment, his creeping suspicions resurfaced in his mind. From the very beginning of their fight, Han Li found that, for some unknown reason, Dr. Mo would become lenient towards Han Li at crucial points in the scuffle, afraid that Han Li might hurt himself. Naturally, Han Li knew that Dr. Mo was not the sort of benevolent person that would intentionally go easy on him. There was definitely some sinister affair going on that Han Li wasn't aware of. Dr. Mo's concern that Han Li would hurt himself was why Dr. Mo had been cautious when taking action against Han Li, because he did not dare to attack violently. If not, the two would have been at each other's throats. Han Li secretly made up his mind to fully exploit this aspect when negotiating with Dr. Mo and then think of a way to escape his opponent's evil clutches. As Dr. Mo walked to the front of Han Li, he could see through everything that Han Li was thinking. He let a sneer flash across his face as he felt around Han Li's chest and extracted a mirror. He couldn't help but be somewhat dumbstruck at this object. As it turned out, it was this object that had protected Han Li's chest from Dr. Mo's strike. Without saying anything, he slightly nodded his head and took out a rectangular yellow wooden box from his bosom. This box was remarkably exquisite, and its surface was engraved with a dragon and a phoenix. Anyone could see that it was a rare and precious object, and thus rarely seen by ordinary people. Dr. Mo faced Han Li and solemnly opened the lid of the box, revealing a few strange, identical silver blades. They somehow resembled a combination between a dagger and a sword. The body of the blades were very peculiar, they were curved into half-moons, their lengths similar to that of stiletto knives. When Dr. Mo took out one of the silver blades, Han Li saw that, oddly enough, the sinister blade was as thin as a piece of paper. The cold light flashing on the blade's surface was enough for Han Li to know that the blade was razor sharp. Using it to slice human flesh would be as easy as cutting clothes. The tip of the handle on the silver blade was even more bizarre. Inlaid on the tip was an extremely ferocious and sinister-looking demon head, which had a pair of horns and eyes that were tightly shut. Dr. Mo lifted this sinister blade and glanced knowingly at Han Li out of the corner of his eye. This action left Han Li absolutely horrified. His inauspicious thought seemed to be true. Dr. Mo wanted to use the sinister blade to cut him. Han Li's face started to turn green as he helplessly stared at Dr. Mo lifting the sinister-looking blade high up in the air. Under the beams of sunlight, the edge of the blade sparkled intensely, showing its sharpness conspicuously. His heart involuntarily began to panic, but his intellect told him that Dr. Mo was only intimidating him. Since Dr. Mo had expended so much effort to capture Han Li alive, he definitely wouldn't kill Han Li off so easily. As the sharp blade was seen descending slowly from the sky, targeting to pierce through his body, Han Li still remained silent, forcefully maintaining an expression of resoluteness. Just when the strange sinister blade was half an inch away from splitting his head that even the tip of his hair could feel the waves of coldness generated by the sinister blade, Han Li slowly closed his eyes as a hint of regret flashed through his mind. Could it be that Dr. Mo is really going to kill me? If I had known earlier, I would have begged for mercy, there might have been a sliver of hope for me to survive. I am still very young, I really don't want to die like this. If the news of my death reached my parents, would they feel sad? Would they regret sending me to the Seven Mysteries sect? At that fine line between life and death, all kinds of distracting thoughts arose in Han Li's mind, threatening to overwhelm him. All of a sudden, Han Li seemed to have experienced all the joys and sorrows of life at this instant, gaining enlightenment regarding the matters of life and death. Ka-cha! The sound of the sinister blade piercing a human body sounded out. Han Li's body shuddered slightly, but surprisingly, he did not feel any pain from that. What is happening? Han Li opened his eyes in surprise. The moment Han Li opened his eyes, he was shocked. Unexpectedly, he saw that the sinister blade was lodged in between Dr. Mo's shoulder blades and penetrated deeply into his body to the extent that only the handle of the blade remained on the outside, trembling slightly. There was no blood despite the grievous wound, revealing that the edge of the blade was exceptionally sharp. While Han Li remained bewildered by the sight, Dr. Mo, against all sanity and reason, actually started to praise Han Li. "Excellent, you little brat. You do have some guts indeed. Not crying out for mercy even when you were half an inch from death. Excellent. Ha ha ha. When I was out journeying in Jiang Hu in the recent past, I met plenty of heroes who claimed that they were not afraid of death. But the moment they landed in my hands, just under the slightest bit of pressure, they instantly turned from a proclaimed hero into a coward, falling to their knees and begging for their lives." Han Li froze. He stuttered incoherently, unsure of what to reply. Previously, he almost gave in to the pressure and soiled in his pants. Only by gritting his teeth and forcibly enduring it did he manage to not to cry out. It was also because in his heart he believed that Dr. Mo would not have killed him just like that, and thus he luckily passed this test. Moreover, Han Li also has his pride as a man, and he was unwilling to change his stance to beg Dr. Mo for mercy. Facing the praises from Dr. Mo, Han Li of course would not correct him. But countless contradictions arose in his heart, uncertain whether should he be happy or disappointed. Just as a multitude of thoughts swam around in Han Li's mind, Dr. Mo swiftly grabbed the rest of the sinister blades and proceeded to impale every part of his body deeply, only leaving the demonic heads of the sinister blades exposed. After Han Li recovered from his state of shock, he realized that there was a total of 7 sharp blades impaled in Dr. Mo's body. The blades are inserted in both of his shoulders, both of his legs, his lower abdomen, and rest of the blades were embedded in front of his chest. When looked at from afar, Dr. Mo gave off the impression that his body was hacked apart and dismembered in the midst of chaos. Han Li didn't know whether he should be happy or terrified by Dr. Mo's self-mutilation. Could it be that method was a prelude to a very powerful martial art? Could Dr. Mo be using the powerful martial art to deal with Han Li? After Dr. Mo finished impaling himself, he entered into a state of meditation, no longer speaking a word and ignoring all distractions. Han Li's heart shuddered slightly. He felt that this was a divine opportunity to escape. Just when he wanted to make a move, however, he abruptly stopped, appearing to have realized something. Han Li smiled bitterly. How could he have forgotten the giant fellow not far from Dr. Mo's side? That giant fellow had always been observing Han Li's movements. How could he have the chance to escape? It appeared that before entering his meditative state, Dr. Mo had already planned out everything meticulously. He was unafraid of any tricks that Han Li might have up his sleeves. This strange giant fellow named Iron Slave seemed to have originated from some place mysterious. His body was the same as Dr. Mo, demonic silver hands. The toughness of his body was such that even the fatal weakness of the male species, groin area, was impenetrable by sword or spears. All of Han Li's plans to escape was destroyed by the mere presence of this man. As Han Li was silently cursing the giant fellow in his heart, a change that seemed demonic in nature occurred in front of him. Dr. Mo's facial features started to twitch, followed by violent trembling of his whole body. His facial features contorted grotesquely, as if he was bearing tremendous pain. Along with the sinister blades impaled in his body, people observing would not help but be terror-stricken, as if that they could feel that there was an emergence of extremely chilled air rising in the room Dr. Mo was in. All of a sudden, Dr. Mo stopped trembling. However, an extremely weird low-toned roaring noise emitted from deep inside his throat. This sound has the feel of a savage primal bestiality. At that instant, Dr. Mo appears to be no longer an old man but rather a terrifying primordial beast from the wilds. Following which, an even more horrifying thing happened. The ghostly mist that appeared on Dr. Mo's face a year ago, materialized again. Compared to a year ago, the ghostly mist that appeared now was distinctly different. Other an increase in the volume, the color of the mist now was blacker than black. When it appeared on Dr. Mo's face, it was akin to him wearing a pitch-black mask obscuring his original features. Shadowy tentacles also started to emerge from the ghostly mist. In addition to this, the ghostly mist underwent a earth-shaking change. Amidst the shadowy tentacles, the black fog seemed to have gained texture, becoming shiny and velvety. It seemed to have a will of its own, expanding and contracting uncontrollably, giving the appearance of it dancing madly on Dr. Mo's face. Both hands of Dr. Mo assumed the lotus hand gesture, contorting into a strange position. His lips were moving slightly, as if he were muttering some spell incantations, only that his voice was too low that Han Li could not catch what he said. Alongside of Dr. Mo's strange gesture, the ghostly mist on his face seemed to be extremely agitated. Just like pouring ice-cold water on a boiling hot pan, the ghostly mist started to surge and seethe, creating a lot of small tentacles that were writhing threateningly in the air. It seemed that they wanted to stop Dr. Mo from doing something. Just as the black fog was at its most saturated point, Dr. Mo suddenly opened his eyes. Despite the intense blanket of black fog, Han Li could still see Dr. Mo's eyes were full of vitality and concentration. 7 ghosts devouring the soul. Dr. Mo roared out the name of the secret art that he is planning to use on Han Li.